Well, we're happy to have Jimmy Murphy with us tonight. You can find his takes on the Bruins at Boston Hockey Now. How you doing? Little makeshift hockey beard cooking for you there tonight. You're looking good.
Yeah, it's kind of the COVID thing. And then once the playoffs hit, I said, why shave it, right? And it's a little makeshift studio as well, but I'm glad to be on.
You know it's a big story, and I know it's a big story when everywhere I go, people will stop me and say, like, hey, what about Tuukka Rask? What do you think? So what's been your takeaway on what we've seen happen here over the last 24 hours?
Well, let's rewind back to, Thursday when he said, I'm not really interested in results right now. I'm interested in just having fun and getting the kinks out, basically. And to hear that from your starting goaltender in the middle of the playoffs, if we had heard that in a round robin, I would have understood, and we did hear it from him, as a matter of fact. But to hear that raised a red flag for sure. And it was funny that the next day I talked to some people with the team and kind of got to feel like there's a little something more going here. And then when it happened, when we found out on Saturday morning prior to Game 3, it definitely was a shock, but at the same time it wasn't, because you could kind of see it was leading to this with him. But the thing I don't like right now, and I'll just be honest, is everybody judging him so much right now. I get it. It's the playoffs. He's a pro athlete. He's making millions of dollars right now, but he's also a human being. And they're also in a unique situation that no other athlete has been in the history of sports. They're cooped up in a bubble. They're away from their families. And yes, I know we think these guys are robots, but they're not. That stuff matters to them. They're human beings, like I said. And look, from what I hear, there is a legit situation where Tuukka needed to be home with his family, and I don't blame him. If that's where he feels he needs to be, then I'd rather him be there. And furthermore, in a hockey point, I'd rather him be there too. It's just looking at it from a hockey standpoint, because do you want the guy between the pipes not focused 100%? So that's why I don't understand why everybody's so angry. You got a goalie in there now. He performed well. I think he can do the job for the Bruins as they go forward.
There's been so much water under the Tuukka bridge, and he knows how this is going to be perceived. And I guess a part of his personality is that he doesn't really care, because he has been through so much and he's received so much judgment for so many different things, whether it be Stanley Cup final losses or a Game 7 loss, whatever you want to pin on him, the fact he missed a couple games down the stretch, whatever. But do you think it would benefit him to open up a little bit here? Should we hear from Tuukka? Should there be any pressure? Could he relieve some of the pressure if he just stood in front of a microphone and answered a couple questions?
Well, look, again, that's his choice, right? But do I think that would help? For sure, I do. But I wonder if that will happen in time. I mean, this situation, from what I hear, is fluid. It's something ongoing. And, let's let him choose that moment when he needs to do that. And, it's interesting. I think it was Kevin Paul DuPont found out through the NHL, or I'm not sure which reporter. If I'm not giving them credit, I apologize. But I thought it was Kevin Paul DuPont that said there is a chance that he could return in the playoffs. If he feels like he's ready to go later, I'm not sure if the Bruins would actually do that, because who knows, if they're that deep into the playoffs and Halak's on a roll, you don't want to pull him out. But he still could do that. But let's see what happens. Let's give him a little time to figure out if he wants to come public with it. And if he doesn't, that's his choice, and I respect that. I just think, unfortunately, you brought it up there. It's a unique situation because Tuukka Rask, to me, is the Rodney Dangerfield of Boston sports. And so this is not helping him at all. And, it's just unfortunate.
When you think about what he has experienced here over the years, and the fact he's got one more year left on his contract, and there is uncertainty, you got to know that your goaltender is going to be with the team. This is really putting the team up with their back against the wall at this point. Would you, if you were in charge, say, you know what, we're going to walk away. We're not going to have you play a lame duck year. You've threatened retirement. We don't know if you want to stay here after 2021 anyway. What would you do if you were in charge?
I think all of those things are on the table, and I don't think you can blame the Bruins for thinking that either. And, obviously I'm supporting Tuukka here, but they're running a business. They're running a team. It's a multi-million-dollar business. They have to do what's best for the team. And if they feel like, unfortunately, because of some circumstances, he can't be depended on going forward, then they have to make that decision. And we'll see what happens with that. And I think you make a great point there, that he isn't a lame duck year there. And there was already rumors, I think, that if they hadn't won the Cup this year and it fell on him again, that might happen. So it's definitely an interesting situation to watch. It would free up a ton of money for the Bruins going forward. It might even allow them to keep Torrey Krug. So I think it's a very realistic situation that we could be facing once this season is over. But the problem is the way the NHL wants it right now, we're going to have a few weeks of the off season. So if that's going to happen, it's going to happen fast.
Yeah, you didn't realize you were as clairvoyant as you now appear when you wrote your article about Jaro Halak and what if it comes down to him between the pipes, and here you are. So when you looked at that possibility a couple of weeks ago, what was your analysis of what he could bring to the game if he were forced to play in the postseason?
Well, actually, I gotta give credit. That wasn't me. That was actually one of our writers, Rob Simpson, formerly of Nesson, that wrote that. But we discussed it right before that on some videos that we do for the website. And I think that the feeling we both had about that was, look, this is a guy that every time he's been in the playoffs has performed pretty well, and he hasn't had much of a team in front of him. You think back 10 years ago, and I know that's a decade ago now, but he took a Montreal Canadiens team that was arguably a borderline AHL team at the time with some of the injuries they had and the lack of talent. He took them to the conference final before they lost to the Philadelphia Flyers. And then you see what he did with the Islanders. He took them to a Game 7 against the Capitals. That wasn't a great Islanders team. He gave them everything they had. And I find him to be a very streaky goalie, but streaky can be good in the playoffs, right? Because if he gets hot, he gets hot. And I think that's what the Bruins are hoping will happen here with Jaromir Halak.
Jimmy Murphy, thanks a lot. We'll be following your stuff at bostonhockeynow.com, and keep the beard going.
All right. Thanks, bro.